First of all high torque stirrers come according to the high torque quality philosophy with unsealed housing. Here we do have an IP42 classification for the housing. For the Expert and Ultimate models, we even have an IP54. We start now to introduce the different categories. First of all, here we have the high torque core model, a new model in the high torque line made for, I would say, simple stirring tasks for up to 25 liter of low viscous medias. The high torque core also got a quick chuck design. We can insert the impellers here, and we need two hands to fix it in the right position. You hear the clicking that indicates that it is fixed. Now I can insert the stirrer into the water by using our telescopic stand. You see the RPM rate is indicated here, and we can easily start a stirring function by pushing on the button. The high torque core comes with a timer function. You can easily access that by pushing that button, and you can set the timer by hours, minutes and seconds. You can activate it in this way, and if you start your stirring function now, it will count down to the set time. When the set time is over, the unit will stop the stirring automatically. Another little feature is an indication of the torque. So in this little bar above of the RPM rate, you see how much power is necessary to maintain the 300 RPM. The motor got a total power of up to 40 Newton centimeter, and if you pushed it a little bit harder, you see we come to the limit of the stirrer. It will stop for a second and will restart again in this case. Another interesting feature is this little button here on the right corner. It is the maximum button. So you see, if we push that only for a second, it is not pretty critical because the RPM rate goes down pretty fast and we do not cause splashes, for example. It is an easy way to adjust the speed and to come back to a lower speed range again. If you use the knob instead, you have some latency, you have some time that you have to invest or that you have to consider until the RPM rate gets down again. So that's all about the high torque core. As you can see, very simple unit with fast access to the most relevant process parameter and some additional functions that can be useful depending on your application. So the next category is the high torque expert category. First of all, it's a pretty simple stirrer also with the main functionality. Very important, you have three different categories regarding to the motor power. You have one model for up to 100 Newton centimeter performance, another one for 200, and a third one with a two gear stage design with up to 400 Newton centimeter. Here we do have the 200 Newton centimeter model, and as you can see, it comes with an advanced quick chuck. First of all, we position the lock ring, and now we could even install the impeller with only one hand. You hear two clicks, and now you know it is extremely fixed, and it can also maintain high viscosity application without a risk that it can get loose, for example. We can close the lock ring, we can insert it into water and could start the stirring function with this light indicated activation bar. We can now directly interact with the RPM rate as we have seen that with the high torque core. Also here we do have a torque indication. I wouldn't have enough power to bring that to the limit, but as you can see here, even if I keep that very strong, you see I can only show one or two of these 5 bars. If we want to stop the stirring, we can again touch the panel, or we can also use the turn off button. This can be also interesting in case of an emergency if something comes into the rotating parts to stop the stirring function immediately. So that's all about the high torque expert models. Now we move on and have a look on the most advanced stirrers in the Hei TORQUE product line, the Hei TORQUE Ultimate models. As you can see on the screens, there are more data, more information, and also more possibilities. First of all, similar to the Hei TORQUE Core, we do have a timer function, as you can see here. You can easily adjust the timer for minutes and hours. For example, I pushed it now to 1 minute, and if we start a rotation, it will also count down in the bigger numbers. And will then stop the rotation. The main function is always the stirring speed, and this is why we always see that the RPM rate is highlighted and I can easily adjust it. I do not have to select it before. If I'm, for example, in my stirring process, I can be sure that always if I turn the knob, I reduce or I increase the RPM rate of my process. What we see here also is some torque indicator. So with the Hei TORQUE Core and also with the Hei TORQUE Expert models, we only see, I would say, a short indication of the torque that is needed to maintain the RPM rate. Here we really see the Newton centimeter, the power that the motor needs to maintain it, and also we see if there are changes on the load. This could indicate changes in the viscosity of your sample, for example. I simulate it now. I give some load on the stirrer and I push the calibration button, and now the torque is calibrated. So it starts at a 0 point, and I see if there is a movement to more viscosity or toward lower viscosity. And if I turn back the load, you see that we are in the negative area. So besides of that, you also can have a look on the required stirring speed and Newton centimeter on the graph. If we push that button here, you see an orange line that indicates the RPM rate and a gray line that also indicates the torque that is required to maintain the speed. And here we can edit our profiles. We can start with, let's say, about 100 RPM. And then we want to go up in a second step to, let's say, 350. But we want the system to not go directly to the 350 after 1 minute of process. We want to ramp up slowly. And this is when we change the icon to the symbol. Then we will add another step to say, let's go down afterwards to 50 RPM. This will be also the value that gets maintained at the end of the process. But we can also change that if we activate this function. Then we will repeat the cycle again and again. We do not want to do that now. We want to activate the ramp. We can do that here. Go back to the home, and as soon as I start the stirring function, you will see the ramp is now starting, and we start with a 100 RPM and increase the value step by step over that 1 minute. You can also create a very long process, like say, like 1 hour, where you can really pretty slowly ramp up and can react, for example, to changing viscosity. So after 1 minute, we reach the 350 RPM, and we will keep that now for another minute according to our profile, and will then go down to our next process speed of 50 RPM. Now we reached our final step. The stirrer jumps immediately to our 50 RPM when we can turn off. There are some more functions in the menu of the unit. For example, you can go into the setup, and besides of time setting, language, or if there should be a sound, you can also choose the direction that you want to stir. Please consider that some impellers are made only for counterclockwise or clockwise rotation. So this is something you should consider before you change the direction. You can choose the left or right direction for all Hei TORQUE 200 Newton centimeter models and 100 Newton centimeter models. Another feature that you can set is the start time. The start time helps you to define a specific time when the application should start. For example, if you run it overnight, or if it's combined to other laboratory products, you can set a time of, let's say, 9 o'clock in the evening that it should start. So in the safety features, we see the possibility to change the acceleration speed. If we start, for example, with a slow acceleration, you see that the stirrer is starting pretty slow. It do not overshoot the system, and you can react, for example, if you work with small glass, with small samples, in case of any overswapping or any splashes that the stirrer could create. Alternatively, you can choose the fast mode. Here you can see that we immediately ramp up to the set speed of, in this case, 400 RPM. There are two more safety features. The one is a speed limit that you can set. For example, if your application or if you work in a reactor, sometimes it could be dangerous to run with a high RPM rate. So you can limit it generally and the unit will never exceed the set number. Or what's also interesting, you can set a torque limit. I mean, this is not like a viscosimeter, but if you know the viscosity change of your sample and you know at 130 Newton centimeter you reached your goal inside of your application, then you can set that, for example, to this value. And if you have repeatable application, you can always use the same value for it, and the system will turn off as soon as you reach this torque level. Additionally, all high torque ultimate models come with an USB and an RS-232 interface that allow you to integrate these stirrers in your lab control system, for example, if you use a reactor. So this was the overview about the differences of the high torque core, expert and ultimate models. Thank you.